Welcome to Butterflies of Wisdom, everyone. Not only do you have me this morning, you have Natoya with me. And so without further ado, I'm going, Natoya, take it away.
Hi, I'm Natoya Ebony. I'm currently living in Houston, Texas. How's everybody doing this morning?
Well, good. You're living in a nice and hot area. Geez.
I'm sorry?
You're living where it's hot. Is it hot down there?
Yeah, I live in Houston, Texas. I currently run a blog, natoyaebony.com. The blog is basically my dating life and my social life, I guess I would say. I started the blog because I was having like a horrible time. Well, it's going to sound super selfish. I was having a horrible time getting over a breakup. And my mom came in my room one day and suggested I start blogging. So I guess, she probably should have told me to start a diary. I don't understand why she said blogging. So ever since then, I've kind of been blogging my life lessons, my love lessons, my work lessons, and every other lesson I have.
And so how many years ago did you start this blog?
Well, I relaunched it just like a month ago, but originally it started in 2010. I had just graduated from Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida. And like I said, I was one of those kids that went to college because I was told to go to college. So I didn't have an end goal in mind. It was like, take the classes, graduate. So I kind of graduated with the degree that I really didn't know much about. I was always a creative mind, but we weren't pushed to be creative. It was like, go to college, get a job in corporate America. So once I graduated, I honestly didn't know what to do. And I was going through like this heartbreak that I thought was tremendous. So I kind of came home from college with a degree, but very defeated. So my mom was just kind of like, hey, how about you just write your thoughts down on the World Wide Web and see what happens. So for like 2 years, I blogged and I had really good reception, but then I moved to Houston and then, life kicked in, so I wasn't blogging as much. So I kind of discontinued the site. But then recently I decided that I felt most at peace. I felt like I was in my purpose when I was actually blogging and putting out my stories. Kind of like your podcast. You probably feel like you're doing something for the greater good. And that's kind of how I feel about my blog.
Yes. Yes, I was just about to say that, Natoya. And so have you got a large response about your blog? Because I know more about podcasting than I do blogging.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing was, when I started it again, for me, it sounds so super selfish, but I started it again because it just kind of released stress, and it kind of putting your thoughts out there kind of helps you figure out what you're doing. So it gave me like a clear space. So I went into one of my old email addresses from when I had my original blog, and I started seeing emails from people that were following me and that were asking kind of like what happened to me. Like, you fell off the face of the earth. You just stopped posting. Your blog just disappeared. So when I started seeing these emails, and some as recent as 2016, it was like, wow, I kind of did abandon this community of people without saying, hey, I need a break, or, I just want to live life without blogging about it. I didn't give anybody anything. So when I realized that people actually followed and looked forward to it, it made me more determined this time around to keep it going and, just try to put out the best stories and the best lessons that I'm learning through life.
Yeah, because I was so saying, once you start something, people get attracted to it.
I underestimated that because it was still in my mind. It was for me. It wasn't for other people. So thinking it was for me, it was like, oh, nobody's going to miss me. I'm just kind of putting my diary online is what I'm doing. So I was like, okay, this time around, I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to make it more a business. I'm going to make sure what I'm putting out is going to be funny, and it's also going to give you a lesson, and it's going to give you something to do when you're at the airport waiting for your plane to take off, or, you're just sitting in the DMV and you can read a quick story that can, brighten up your day and give you a life lesson.
Now, okay, I'm going to ask you to pick your favorite child, and I'm going to phrase it this way. What has been your favorite blog post you have done?
The one about daddy issues, only because I was the type of girl that I hated when people said they had daddy issues, especially late in life. Like, I'm 30. So, and then I was the type of person who didn't want to say I had daddy issues because I thought it was very cliche. But you start to realize, well, for me, I kind of realized that your upbringing and what you see actually cultivates your life. And regardless if you want to deal with it or not, you're going to eventually deal with it in some manner. So for me, it was like I had these horrible choices men. Well, why do I keep choosing bad men? I had a great mom. I had a great stepdad. I have great brothers. What's the underlying issue? And then finally, an aunt told me, she was like, have you ever thought that maybe you do have daddy issues? And my response was like, well, I don't, he's not my cup of tea. And she was like, well, that could be the problem. Maybe you want a dad that, you could hang out with, that you consider cool. And it all it felt like an aha moment, like Oprah would say. So that was my favorite blog post, only because I think that was the most personal. It wasn't funny. It wasn't witty. It was just raw.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just raw. Now, okay, what has been your deepest regret in life / being a blogger?
Deepest regret probably is not listening to myself. Like I said, originally, I knew I didn't want to work in corporate America, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So when I had little ideas, when I first originally was the whole internet wave was coming, like podcasts and blogging and Twitter and Facebook, when all that was coming up and becoming popular, I looked at it, but I didn't feel comfortable enough to tell my family or my friends that this is how I want to make my money. This is the living I want. I want to be, I guess, an online personality. I didn't know how to say that. And it sounded crazy to me to say that when a lot of people older than you and people don't really think outside the box. They think you need to get a job at Ford or GM or T-Mobile and these huge corporations as a way to make your living, when I really just wanted to be creative. So that's kind of my biggest regret, not following what I felt was the right path for me professionally.
Okay, so your biggest regret is not following your right path.
Yes, like ignoring what my inner self was telling me because I was afraid of what everybody would say, because it was unconventional.
And so, if you don't mind me asking, what did you get your degree in?
I got my undergrad degree is in political science with a minor in religion, and literally my political science degree was picked for me by my advisor. I was in my 5th senior year, and the last of my friends were graduating, and I went to my advisor, and I was like, I need to graduate this summer. He literally looked over my transcript, looked in the computer, found out that I had enough classes to get a political science degree, and that is how I got my political science degree. And then he realized I needed a minor. So he was like, well, you're going to have to take some more classes because you have to, have the requirements for the minor. Well, I always register late, so I ended up with kind of, I don't want to say the crappy electives, but kind of like the crappy electives. So I always was taking religion classes. I did women in religion, African American in religion, Christianity. So I had enough classes in religion to make that my minor. So my degree was a political science with a minor in religion.
Now,
and I didn't know what to do with it.
How do you think that college degree can be used in your blog?
it's more of an experience in my mind. But I wrote a lot of papers, and I always did well. And, like I said, I should have listened to myself because I always did well in my English type of classes. I always did well when I had to write a paper. I mean, I was actually writing some friends' papers. Shouldn't do that in college, but I did that as well. So I wish in thinking about college and my blog, it's always the writing. It was always about the storytelling. It was always about getting my opinion out. So college was great. I just wish I would have went for English versus the random political science degree I got.
Okay. Journalism, you can go for that and use it on your blog.
Yes. Always.
Yes.
All the writing, all the English, all the APA.
Okay, you just wish you went for a different degree to use with to infuse in your blog.
English, I think if I could do college all the way over again, I would literally go to class. I would go to school for English and do more creative electives. Because I kind of was just there, going through like the motions. So college is great. It was a great experience. Met some lifelong friends, but I was just super lost, and I should have talked to somebody or should have explored my options more so than just, I'm here, take English, take algebra, take chemistry.
Yeah. Now I understand the way you're coming from. And so, did you ever get that job in corporate America, or you're way too creative, Natoya, to stick with the 9-to-5 job?
I'm way too creative to stick to a 9-to-5 job. That was never the goal. Like, I'm kind of jealous of my brothers because both of them went to college with an idea of what they wanted to do with the rest of their lives. I went to college like, I'm here, I've arrived. So based on that, I never, even as a child, it wasn't me. A 9-to-5, sitting behind a desk. My mom's a network engineer. My brother works for the school board. My younger brother's producer, newscaster. None of that moves me. I feel like my best self when I'm writing, when I'm observing people. I'm at my highest.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I can tell. You're doing a great job on blog. And now, how many followers have you built up from starting this blog?
Right now I'm at 200, but I've been on for about a month and a half. I restarted it. Like I said before, I had an original blog, but then I just shut it down. So I'm still kind of, I don't want to say a beginner because I did this before, but now I'm in the beginning phases again because, the internet moves and people move so fast and it's like a billion podcasts. So you got to find your niche, and it's work. People don't understand this whole, like, I'm pretty sure with your podcast when you originally started, it was work to get a following, to get, people to want to hear your voice.
Yes.
It's work.
When I started this podcast, it slowly but surely took off because you guys know this by now, I wrote a book at age 23, and I wrote my autobiography at age 23. So I already had a following because of that. So then I transferred into podcasting, but it was still hard to get following.
There's just so many podcasts out there. You Google podcasts or go to iTunes, you get a billion.
Yeah, you get a billion. So what would be, okay, now that you mentioned that, but I'm going to phrase this question differently to you, what would be your favorite blog that you follow that my listeners should follow? Then I'm going to ask you what your favorite podcast is.
My favorite blog to follow right now? I'm not really. Actually, yes. but I like a little bit of the gossipy ones, but not like too gossipy. So I do EXO Nicole. I do EXO Nicole, which she gives you celebrity gossip, but then she also throws in like life lessons and things to make you to raise your vibrations and yoga. Because I don't like they have the trash ones. That's just horrible. But EXO Nicole really, they take stories that are very popular and turn them into a positive lesson for everybody. So you kind of get your gossip, but then you kind of get a message at the end, and that's always great. And right now, my favorite podcast is Dreams and Drive. I'm kind of obsessed with it right now.
I was going to say that I actually do listen to Dreams and Drive, and I actually had Lena on my podcast, and
I saw that. That's how I found you.
Why she started the podcast is amazing. Dreams and Drives, you guys, is one of my all-time favorite podcasts. Thank you.
Amazing.
And so Dreams and Drives is, you get people, as I said at the top of her interview, you get people who've had cancer, you get people from all walks of life, yes, and you truly have to pitch Lena at some point, because I want to be on her team too. And although she's not looking at guests at the moment, she told me that. She said, I have to pitch her like everyone else. And so she's not giving me any special treatment. But I was wondering, Natoya, how you found me. Geez. So
yes, because I follow her. I started following her about 2 weeks ago. And I saw you pop up.
Well, that's because she was kind enough to share my interview that I did with her.
Yes, that's exactly how I found you.
Yeah. Well, isn't that amazing? Because see the power of podcasting there. So, what has been your favorite book that you have read or thought about blogging about? If you can give any of my listeners a favorite book.
Oprah's What I Know for Sure. Only because she tells these personal stories, and then at the end of it, she gives you the lesson within the story. And anybody who's, I think everybody should be obsessed with Oprah. That's just me. But if you just look at the beginning of how she was born, I believe in like rural Mississippi, and the fact of where she's at now with her own network and her wildly successful talk show, it literally is like, to me, the manual to be successful in any type of profession and just life in general.
Yes. Okay. If you had to be educated by anyone inside or outside your film, who would it be and why?
I just said her, Oprah. Only because her story is just amazing. Especially, I also listened to this podcast called The Making of Oprah, and I did too. Wasn't it amazing?
Yes.
So
yes.
I don't know if the listeners ever listened to The Making of Oprah, but when they tell the story about how they were begging people to come to the Oprah show, like actually offering people donuts and coffee and candy and begging them to be in the audience, to fast forward, I think she did 25 years, to fast forward 25 years, and people are literally like willing to give a pint of blood and their firstborn for a ticket to an Oprah show.
Yeah.
That's just amazing. You like, I just want to I need her for like 20 minutes one day just to tell me everything. And I know I will be successful.
Yeah. Oprah has impacted a lot of people, and I am of the Oprah generation. It may not seem like it, but my mother got me hooked on Oprah. Thank you very much, Mom. And so, yeah, I used to come home from school and sit and watch Oprah for a good hour and a half or however long she was on. But this was long before the podcasting realm, and certainly long before the blogging realm, too.
Yes, way before. Because she even said that, I believe, on the podcast that no one would ever do numbers like she did because the way technology moves. Because now, like, I spend a lot of time, I don't watch TV. I spend a lot of time on podcasts and, trying to figure out.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then it's like podcasts it's one podcast I listen to. They review Denzel Washington movies every week. So every week they go alphabetically, you just go through Denzel Washington's movies. So you literally can find any and everything in a podcast. It's just what you want. It's there for you.
Yeah, it's what you want to find in a blog too. If you're looking on a blog about cooking, you can sign up. If you're looking for a podcast about inspiration, you can find that. If you're looking about a podcast about dreaming and making a successful career, you can find that too. So
I mean, that's my goal. My goal is actually to podcast eventually. It's a bit overwhelming right now when I think about it, but that will be like the end goal, to kind of make Natoya Ebony a podcast as well.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because I have a friend who started a blog, who's a very successful local blogger to where I live, and I convinced her to start a podcast. I said, you need to get off this blogging train, and of course she's still on the blogging train, but now she's started a podcast, which even enhances your blogging train.
Yeah, that will be the end goal for me, to actually get a podcast. I was actually, right before me and you got on the phone, I actually was looking at mics, trying to figure out what's the best mic to use. And I was confused. I was like reading the reviews.
You're semi-close. You're that close to hit the target, Natoya.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, goodness. Now she's doing another rabbit hole that she can go down. See, so where can people find your blog, and where can people get a hold of you?
The blog is www.natoyaebony, and that's spelled NatoyaEbony.com, and that is all my Twitter and Instagram and Facebook handle as well, Natoya Ebony. I'm always on Twitter. I'm like always lurking and reading people's tweets, so you definitely can find me there.
Yes. And we're going to give out another huge shout out to Reading and Her Dreams and Drive campaign here. She's very active on social. She tweets out her episodes on Mondays and Thursdays because she noticed a boost in traffic. So that's how she does it. So follow Dreams and Drives, follow Elena, and you'll get a...
yes, you will literally put your dreams in drive.
Yes, you will literally, as Natoya said, you will literally put your dreams in drive, no pun intended, because she's got fascinating guests. And I said to her at the top of the interview I did with her, I said, I don't know how I get so lucky. I get to interview one of my favorite podcast hosts who's not white and who's making a name for herself. I don't know how I get so lucky. And so, And so if you guys want to have an interesting challenge, go listen to Dreams and Drives, and it's amazing podcast. But before I let Natoya go, I want her to ask me questions.
Okay, so of course I did a little bit of research on you.
Yes.
Do you think, with your podcast, what is your end goal? Are you like for me, I know with my blog, I just want people to understand that they're not in it alone. So what's your goal for your podcast?
My goal for my podcast is to teach people about disabilities and solo entrepreneurship. And yes, you may have a disability, but you can still run a successful blog or a successful podcast and successful business.
Of course, I was actually, when I was reading your bio and everything, I was thinking that schools probably with kids with disabilities, schools should probably make sure there's more of a creative classes for them as well, because I feel like it might get overlooked that they could be writers and painters and all these great things, but, you know, we don't force creativity amongst
don't
youth.
get me started on how I feel about the education system. Do not get me started on how I feel about the special ed system. No. That's all the rabbit hole that we have to go down at some point. Yeah, I agree with you. I have a strong feeling about the special education system, and it's not pretty. And so I agree with you that we don't push the creative enough in schools.
I concur. I really think if it was pushed more, kids will have like a better outlet and realize there's more jobs than just, you know, corporate America. Nothing wrong with corporate America. It's just not for everybody.
No, it's just not for everyone.
I concur. But that's all I had for you.
What would be your closing advice for any new blogger or any new podcaster out there who wants to get into this field of being internet famous?
My first little nugget of advice will be just do it. It's not going to be perfect. You might not like your font. It might not be the color scheme you like, but just start as soon as possible getting your content out and work out everything later. Trust me, every day I'm on the phone with the woman that helps me with my blog, and I'm telling her to fix links and fix schemes and fix colors, but every day I still post. I still get my content out there. And the second nugget will be authentically yourself. It is only one you. You be you. Nobody else can be you. You get your story out there, and your community of people, your tribe of people, they will come. You don't have to be anybody else. Your people will come.
Yes. I agree with you, Natoya. Get your story out there with the podcasting or blogging, and your tribe of people will come.
They will. They will come. They will be loyal. They will be fierce.
Yes.
And they will literally hang on to your every word. So get
yes.
your story out.
They will. And people are thinking, when and Natoya, you've got me doing another job on the internet now, and we're trying to say that you need to get your story out there. We all have a unique view on life and unique stories to share.
Yes. No one will tell. Me and my friends can literally live the same situation. If we retell the story, none of them sound the same. So your story is uniquely yours. Your tribe will come. It might not come right away. It might take some time, but your tribe will come.
Yes. And that is a lovely way to end an interview. And I'm sure people can Google you, and sure people can find you. But
yes,
just before
Natoya
you go, Natoya Ebony, just before you go, give people your Twitter handle live so people can tweet you and say they heard you on the podcast.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter. Like I say, I am there all the time. It's at Natoya, Natoya, Ebony, Ebony. And I'm literally on it right now. So you can always find me on Twitter.
She's multitasking as she does a podcast. Well, my secret is I multitask and I answer these questions because I've done it so many times. So, Natoya, if people want to follow you and your blog, what's the best way to do that?
Try me on Twitter. I post the links to my blog on Twitter very often, and you can actually follow my blog if you log in and put in your information. And the blog is www.natoyaebony.com. I am also always there too.
There is a follow button on the blog.
Yes, and all the links to my YouTube, my Facebook, my Instagram are all on my blog as well. So check me out when you guys have some free time.
I will, and I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode. Now I apologize that blogging is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but it's always nice to learn from a blogger and see the power of podcasting. Natoya found me through my podcast. And so this podcast is sponsored by Grace by Grit. Grace by Grit is a clothing line out of California, and they're giving you 20% off code, super nice, and they have super comfy clothes too. And then this podcast is also sponsored by Go Kidder, K-A-T-T-E-R, and Go Kidder is tweeting app. Unfortunately, it's only on desktop for right now, but as soon as I come out with a mobile app, I will let you guys know. And then what Go Kidder does is if you compose a tweet, they put the most trending hashtag with it so people see it. And I think that's super cool. So again, I would like to thank Natoya for her wisdom on blogging and teaching all of us about show notes, i.e. blogs. And I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode. Thanks, you guys.